Okay, good morning, everyone, and welcome to another Auburn Public Theater Facebook Live event. We are back with our second installment of our wellness series featuring Barbara Mendez and co-hosted by our artistic director, Angela Dadabo. This is one of the series that we do every Wednesday at 10 a.m., and we're glad you're back with us. I'm going to turn the program over to Angela, and she will take it from here. We wish everyone health and safety, and stay with us. We'll be with you with lots of programming to come. Angela?
Thanks, Carrie.
Thanks, Carrie. Good morning, Barbara. Welcome back. So glad to
Good
have
morning.
you here with us.
Thank you. So nice to be back. Such a nice show last week.
Oh, it was great fun.
It was a lot of fun.
It was great fun. It was a little stressful. It was my first time ever doing it, but that's what we're here to talk about today, mitigating stress
Yeah.
through all the modalities that live and walk and run around your fabulous brain.
I was thinking in preparing for this today, why I do what I do, like why I'm so insistent on eating well and exercising. And it's really, I always thought it was for health or for managing my weight or whatever, but really it's for my mental health. Because if it wasn't for like having equanimity of mind, I wouldn't be able to do the things that I do. So like my top priority really, when I distill it down, is to maintain a sense of steadiness and balance. And I find that diet and exercise are the ways to do that. So I'm hoping to share some information with your guests, and hopefully they can achieve the same thing. So it's really, nutrition is so vital for emotional well-being, especially in times like this,
And before we get started, Barbara, I just want to mention for anybody who has questions, I think we're going to take them at the end, right?
Yeah. And relevant questions to the topic. If you have additional questions that are off topic, you can put them down as well, and I can do my best to either address them separately, or maybe if as a consensus, we can make one of the future topics of one of our talks about something that people post, a consistent inquiry people have.
Sounds perfect. Thank you. And thank you to everyone who's here watching live with us. We appreciate your presence.
Yeah. So this is a stressful time for people. People are really struggling right now. When I talk to clients, the overwhelming feeling is like, I've just been wanting comfort. And we talked a little bit about this, you and I, last week. Like, I crave bagels myself, and it's hard because one of the chemicals in our brain that help us maintain a steady mind and equanimity is a neurotransmitter called serotonin. And serotonin is something that we all covet, and we don't realize we covet, but we do. And when we take things like Prozac, or if it's prescribed to us, things like Prozac or Lexapro, these prescriptions are designed to boost the amount of serotonin in our brain. But if you consider this statistic or this fact that a single negative thought can deplete serotonin, you can imagine how people might be feeling right now. I mean, but even before this crisis, just in a regular day, in a regular situation, when we're working and juggling a million things, we're constantly ruminating, most of us, on the negative. And as we think negative thoughts, we're depleting serotonin. And what's happening in that dynamic over the course of the day is that we're becoming more and more anxious. So what do? Well, some of our lifestyle choices can aggravate that situation. So we wake up and we have coffee or tea or whatever it is. By the way, I like coffee, so this is not like a judgment on coffee at all. But coffee, one cup of coffee can deplete serotonin for up to 10 hours. So now you're thinking, you're overthinking, you're freaking out about something might be happening in your life. You're having coffee, there goes serotonin, depleted all day long. You're still thinking, serotonin's going down, your anxiety is rising. And at some point, your brain starts going, this does not feel good. I can't deal with this. Go do something right now and help me feel better. So you'll notice in times of stress, which we discussed, that people crave sugar or bread or whatever, because the fastest way to boost serotonin in the brain is by eating these refined, sugary, carby foods. They give us a big rush of serotonin. But unfortunately, when we eat these things, we don't get like this hit of serotonin and then we're like, oh, this is great. We get that momentarily. So you'll notice, like, if you dig into a bag of cookies in the middle of a stressful moment, it kind of alleviates something for about 30 minutes, 45 minutes. But then
yes, anything that goes up, noticed that myself, yes.
Yeah, right. So like it gives you a sense of calm. And in that sense of calm, by the way, is when we start going, tomorrow, I am so going back to eating well and I'm going to exercise, because in that moment, our brain has established some sort of artificial equilibrium, yeah? And from that place of equilibrium, we could say, oh, I'm gonna be my best self tomorrow. But anything that goes up that high that fast is gonna come crashing down. So what happens is, as we're, eating this stuff, is that artificially raising serotonin and then depleting it. So then the snowball effect is that you have even worse levels of serotonin after that binge than you would have had if you had exercised or done something else to modulate that serotonin level in your body. So the way that we take care of ourselves, the thoughts that we think, the foods that we consume, the lifestyle factors that we embrace are intimately, directly related to the way that we feel in our minds. Studies show repeatedly that junk food, like having a lot of junk food in your diet, causes depression and anxiety, or at the very least aggravates depression and anxiety. And studies also repeatedly show, and I find this statistic to be fascinating, that exercise, consistent exercise, is way more effective in managing long-term depression and anxiety than medication. So medication can have a very marked effect short-term, but long-term, because nothing's changing behind the scenes except you're just taking this medication, it doesn't sustain that person the way that a regular exercise routine would sustain that person in a better feeling place. So, as we mentioned last time, I'm a pharmacist, and I remember back in the 90s, early 90s, when I was practicing pharmacy, very few people took antidepressants. I remember when Prozac came on the market, and it was like, I was feeling maybe like 2 prescriptions a week for Prozac, maybe. I mean, if we looked at that number now, I don't even know what it would be because I didn't take a look, but like almost, everybody that I can think of is on something to manage their mood or their anxiety. So it says a lot about how we take care of ourselves and the pressure that we have in our society, but also how convenient these medications have become, and how we a lot of times have resorted to them. Also, when I was practicing pharmacy, you couldn't advertise medication on television. So all these advertisements of people like running through a field and feeling amazing while all the side effects are like rolling in a voiceover in the background, like that didn't exist. And what happens when you create that, think about it. People watch these commercials, they see these beautiful people running through a meadow and they go, I need that. So they go to their doctor and they say, I want that prescription. And what's happening is that we're all kind of self-medicated because doctors are also spending less time with us for insurance purposes. Like it's become difficult to navigate true depressive states because of a chemical imbalance, and just people who are not living their lives in a way that feels congruent to the way that they feel in their spirit, in their soul. That disconnect is not necessarily chemical. It could be something that can just be, if you had a minute to think about it, or you gave yourself some quiet time to consider like the choices that you're making and maybe make different ones. Those people are antidepressants, and then in so doing, they're shutting the veil down and they're not connecting to their feelings. So then they're just on meds without really solving the problem, right? Because there's a reason we feel depressed. Depression, anxiety, unless of course, again, there are actual chemical imbalances, often are like hallmarks. They tell us, how are you feeling? Like, what decisions are you making that maybe aren't lining up with who you really are? So it's important to explore that. And the way to explore that so you can make those changes is to really take care of yourself in an optimal way so that you can have those thoughts, look at them, and then address them in a way that's not so scary. And if you're eating well and exercising, you can definitely make that happen.
Makes perfect sense. I love to understand the brain chemistry piece of it, because I think if, I'm on Andrew Cuomo's team, I think facts/knowledge is power. So it's
100%.
So we're grateful that you're here and grateful that you're able to share some tips about how to do this naturally.
Yeah. So, so again, like what I said earlier about mental health being the most important thing, it's like I was doing this talk yesterday and this woman was asking me about how, people struggle to eat well. And what I always tell my clients is that you know what to do. You don't need me to tell you what's healthy and what's not healthy, but there's a missing piece there for all of us that keeps us from engaging in these habits. Yeah. And that missing piece is mood. That missing piece is mental. So you might want to lose 10 pounds. You might want to get your diabetes under control. You might want to get your eating under control for your immunity. But there's this piece that's keeping you from doing what's best for you because you're anxious or you're stressed. So the mental is so important. The mental precedes the physical, right? So getting that in place is so optimal, is so important. So as we have this conversation today, and as it dovetails into the conversation last week about immunity, let the carrot that you dangle in front of yourself be this feeling of emotional well-being and emotional stability, that you're not so caught up in the negative of what's happening here. And you know, I'm not saying that what's happening isn't a nightmare. Like, it is. It's terrible what's happening. It's so scary. But if you steep yourself in it, and then by constantly watching the news and reading about it and talking about it and eating to comfort yourself, you're not giving yourself the opportunity to rise above it. So even in this pandemic, even in this nightmare, you can eat in a way and take care of yourself in a way that can allow you to have that stability, so that you can flourish during this time, you know, and that's super important. So let's talk about what we should do. And again, if we were to put all my lectures back to back, you would see that it's all similar information, because if you take care of one aspect of your body in a holistic way, all aspects of your body benefit from that change, right? You're not just addressing the brain. In addressing the brain, we're addressing your immunity. In addressing your immunity, we're addressing the brain. So it all kind of overlaps, but there are, of course, very specific things that you could do for anxiety. So the first thing I would say is, you know, look at your caffeine consumption. So it's interesting to me, and I've noticed this over the course of my career, that people who have anxiety tend to drink a lot of coffee and tea. So they actually meet their anxiety with a stimulant that aggravates that anxiety. It's because, you know, when you're stressed and anxious, you're fundamentally depleting your adrenal glands. So you're exhausting yourself through that dynamic of feeling stressed and anxious. So what you feel in that exhaustion is like, I need more stimulation to get that energy to be able to have that focus and concentration. So you have that coffee all day long, and all you're doing is snowballing the thing. So you really want to think about, how much caffeine am I consuming? And where can I make an adjustment? Because again, 10 hours of serotonin depletion just from one single cup of coffee is pretty significant, especially if you have anxiety to begin with. So the way I like to tell people to consider it is like, if you have 2 to 3 cups of coffee in the morning and then, you know, a cup in the afternoon, can you knock out that cup in the afternoon and make it green tea? Can you add a little bit of extra hot water to the coffees that you're having in the morning, so you're diluting the amount of caffeine in that? So if 3 cups is important to you because psychologically you like having the 3 cups, dilute them or make them half decaf. Like when you fill the grinds up, put half decaf, half caffeine, and start to really taper that back. Interestingly enough, the clients that I have that have come off caffeine completely report that they have increased energy levels, which is paradoxical. It's not what you would expect to happen. So you might actually know this better than me, because I do still have some caffeine in your diet, but you're caffeine free, I think, right? And I would say that you have very little caffeine, but you have a lot of energy, yeah?
A lot of energy.
Yeah.
You need to start drinking coffee. No, I'm just
kidding. No, right? Yeah, there's some people that they get energy so high that if they had coffee, it'd be like, whoa. It's like, you need to have
that's how I've been. Yeah, I've never been able to handle it, truthfully.
Yeah.
I mean, a cup of coffee in the day, and I feel like I'm still, at 10 o'clock, I'm still buzzing from it.
Yeah, yeah.
A cup of coffee in the morning, it just sort of has always, my whole life, affected me all day. It doesn't mean I never drink it, because I love the smell of it. I love the taste of it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
Yeah. So what you will find, if you are afraid that if you reduce your caffeine intake, you won't have the energy that you need, that especially if you taper off, your adrenal glands will come back to life and give you this natural, consistent source of energy throughout the day. So that would be the first thing to consider, because it has such a direct impact. And I would also look at your food consumption. So if you're eating a lot of refined foods, like processed, lots of bread and pasta, cookies, crackers, lots of sugary things, if you're ending the day with ice cream, all of that's going to have a very erratic effect on your serotonin levels, and it's going to make it hard for you to manage what's actually happening. So if your serotonin levels are all over the place and your anxiety level is all over the place and you have a problem, it's very hard to see the solution to that problem, because your brain chemistry is so scattered. You want to bring it all in so that you can look at it and go, okay, that's the entry point to solving that issue. But if your brain chemistry is everywhere, you're not going to have access to that. So reducing your amount of sugars and processed foods is important, and then adopting a whole foods diet. So the one nutritional suggestion I gave last week about omelets in the morning or protein and vegetables in the morning, that's a really great way to increase focus and concentration. So if you're having a hard time with that right now because of stress and anxiety, having protein and vegetables for breakfast would be a great way to help you focus so that you don't feel like you have to resort to all that coffee. Again, some people think that sugar gives them energy and focus and concentration, not realizing the downturn that it gives them later on in the day. So starting with that particular breakfast will give you that mental push that you're looking for without resorting to this more stimulant like a coffee and the sugar. So those two things, so the caffeine and the sugar, and then adopting the whole foods diet. There's some very specific foods that are really good for nourishing the brain. So you want to think about like complex carbohydrates. So if a sugar is going to boost serotonin, then all carbohydrates are going to boost serotonin. But what are the best gradual delivery of serotonin foods can I put into my diet? So the number one food that I recommend for anxiety and depression is sweet potatoes. So sweet potatoes, first of all, they grow in the ground. So just energetically, and I don't talk a lot about this because it's not my area, but things that grow in the ground are just more grounded. Yeah. So they energetically will be more grounding. So you eat sweet potatoes, not only are you getting that energetic, sensation, but you're also getting a complex carbohydrate that's slightly sweet and slowly doles out or releases serotonin in a measured way into your brain so that you have that equanimity, that stability of mind. So include a sweet potato, if not every day in your diet, because maybe you don't like it or you're managing your carbohydrate intake or whatever, 3 times a week would be a great amount to consume. So sweet potatoes, a handful of walnuts every day. Walnuts are very high in omega-3 fats. So omega-3 fats also boost serotonin. So you want to have a snack every afternoon, have a handful of walnuts, maybe a cup of berries. Again, the sweetness of the berries, the antioxidants of the berries, not only good for your immune system, but really good for delivery of serotonin to the brain in a gradual, consistent way. You were going to ask something? I saw you.
No, I was going to say before, so far I absolutely love sweet potatoes. We do have them several times a week. And love walnuts, love berries. It's so easy when things are recommended that we already use and love to eat.
For sure. This is just, it's nothing special. It's just normal food. Another thing I recommend to my anxious and depressed clients is having an apple every day, which again, if you think back to last week, quercetin, right? So an apple every day, and cashew butter, which can be expensive, but cashew is high in tryptophan. Tryptophan is a precursor to serotonin. So having an apple with 2 tablespoons of cashew butter would be great. And if cashew butter is a little bit out of your price range, an option would be to get cashew butter, but then to, mix it with some peanut butter, some really good high quality peanut butter. Don't get Skippy or Jif or anything with palm oil or sugar added. And what you're doing is then letting that cashew last longer. So you don't have to buy it so often. And then you're also including a taste of a food that you might be more familiar with, that you might enjoy more. Like I personally love peanut butter more than I love the other nut butters, but the other nut butters have nutritional benefits that peanut butter does not. So I mix them together. So I get a little bit of everything. I get a little bit of what I want with a little bit of what might be best for me. So that would be a way to do that. But an apple every day with some cashew butter or a combination would be great. Or almond butter is also fine if that's something that you enjoy. Almond butter is great. And almond butter, actually, raw almonds have a nutrient called laetrile, which has been shown to have cancer fighting properties. So this benefits in that regard with immunity and so forth as well. You can also just do, if you don't want to get cashew butter, you can just do a handful of cashews. And again, some berries or an orange or something along those lines. As I'm mentioning this, I'm thinking one of the key areas to consider eating is around 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So one question I ask all of my clients at the first appointment is there a consistent window in the day that you feel tired? And inevitably the answer is 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. That has a lot to do with what we're eating for breakfast, but that time is, if you think about it, between breakfast and lunch is a 4 or 5 hour window, but between lunch and dinner can often be a 7 hour window, right? I mean, we start really working as much as we can, getting as much done, and we often don't have time to stop and snack, or we haven't thought about snacking, yeah? Having something at 4 o'clock will help you finish your day strong, again, with a lot of, brain power, and also put the brakes on how much and what foods you're eating at dinner time. oftentimes people use dinner as an opportunity to just indulge because I deserve it. I've had a long day. I'm stressed out. I'm going to eat what I want. But if you ate something at 4 o'clock without even intending to change dinner, you might find that you change dinner because you're just not that ravenous going into it. You remember, the brain uses up like 98% of our fuel supplies. If we're not eating and we're just plowing through trying to figure things out, we're literally depleting our energy to the point that we're starving. Plus we haven't eaten in 7 hours, so we are starving. And then our body's gonna go, well, I don't care about you and your nutritional goals. I'm gonna eat whatever I want right now because I'm depleted. I'm totally depleted. So really plan to have something around 4 o'clock in the afternoon. My 2 pillars of a healthy diet are breakfast, like what are you doing in the morning and what are you doing at 4 o'clock? Because what you do in the morning is going to dictate what you do for lunch, or it's going to influence what you do for lunch, and what you do at 4 in the afternoon is going to influence what you do for dinner. So make sure that 4 o'clock snack is super nutritious. That smoothie I mentioned last week is also a great thing to do at 4 o'clock. And the added benefit of the smoothie is that if you add a teaspoon of cacao powder, cacao is chocolate without the sugar, and cacao is really great to boost dopamine levels. So dopamine is a neurotransmitter that allows us to focus and concentrate, which is what we're looking for in the afternoon. Afternoon is terrible for problem solving because we are so depleted, but a little bit of cacao can boost that dopamine so that you can finish your day strong. So I sent that information to APT. You should have it on your website that you can get that recipe, and that would be another really nice snack to have in the afternoon.
Yeah, we got that. Thank you. And I just want to mention, as you know, I started following the Anne-Louise Gittleman's Fat Flush program back in 2010. And she advocates something very similar to what you're saying, breakfast at 7, and then she recommends a 10:30 a.m. snack, and then lunch at noon, and then same 3 or 4 p.m. snack, and then dinner at 6. I followed it so religiously. And one of the things I noted in the beginning, it's always been true, is that I seldom am I hungry for that 10:30 or 4 o'clock snack. It's not about responding to a hunger crave, but a hunger pain. It's about, in her world, it's about maintaining even blood sugar. And exactly what you're saying proved true for me. By eating that 4 o'clock snack, it reduced the amount of food I ate or wanted or needed for dinner. When afterwards, I'm not as active. So I would be, without that snack, I'd eat a bigger dinner and then be sitting around. And so, like you said, it's a kind of self-fulfilling cycle of messing around with my brain. Now I'm understanding from you, messing around with my brain chemistry.
Well, stability of your blood sugar is the keys to the kingdom. Because if you don't have a stable blood sugar, not only is your appetite and your cravings going to be out of control, and your metabolism is going to be out of control, and you can't lose weight, but your brain chemistry is out of control. So your serotonin levels are going to follow your blood sugar around. If your blood sugar is high, your serotonin level is going to be high. But then think about that crash. Anybody who's ever had a hypoglycemic event knows that it's the most uncomfortable thing in the world. But now think of that feeling, and now imagine that's the same thing that's happening to your brain chemistry. Because they follow each other. So back to that breakfast suggestion, if you do protein and vegetables for breakfast, you're not going to need that 10:30 snack because you're not engaging your insulin response in the morning. So you're not going to have an instability, right? So I have found with my clients that 10:30 snack is often something that we can eliminate. And again, because the window between breakfast and lunch is usually very narrow, if somebody needs it, then obviously have it. But if you don't need it, then have your lunch, but make sure that you eat something in that 7-hour window that often happens between lunch and dinner.
Yeah, makes perfect sense.
Yeah. So also other things that you can do is so back to the omega-3. You can do flax. Flax is you can get it in ground meal. You can get it in oil that you can add to salad dressings. You can get it in capsule. The ground flax seeds. You would take about 3 tablespoons a day per 100 pounds of body weight. That has several benefits. You can add it to oatmeal, you can add it to smoothies. That helps to stabilize your blood sugar, provides a lot of omega-3 fats, so it boosts serotonin. When we were talking last week about ACE2, that enzyme, it enhances the activity of that enzyme. It's been shown to enhance it. So it's great for immune response. It's been shown to help mitigate the likelihood of developing breast cancer. There is some beneficial impact to using flax in the prevention of breast cancer. Prevention of diabetes, and it's great for bowel function. So flax is something that you can definitely add to. your program. You can do the oil. The oil is 1 tablespoon per 100 pounds of body weight. So you could just add it to salads, like I said, or cooked food. Just don't cook with it. If you cook it, if you heat it, you're destabilizing it and you're going to lose all the benefits from it. And then also along the omega-3 spectrum is salmon. So for those of you that do eat fish, wild Alaskan salmon is an excellent source of protein, and it's a great source of omega-3 fats. So if you do eat fish, having that like twice a week, you know, we have to be careful about how much fish we consume because of mercury and the way mercury attaches to our endocrine system. So it affects our entire hormonal balance. So you don't want a ton of fish in your diet, but if you have salmon twice a week, maybe 3 times a week, if it's the only fish that you consume, then that would be another thing to add to your diet as well. And then don't forget the cacao in the smoothies, because that does give you that focus and concentration that you might be looking for as well. Yeah. So food-wise, those are the main things that I would say. To add to that, oats are really good as far as nourishing adrenal function and adrenal glands. Like the more you stress yourself out, the less that you sleep, the more that you drink caffeine, the more you're burning out your adrenal glands, and your adrenal glands control almost everything: your inflammatory response, your blood pressure, your stress response, your weight, everything. So eating oats on a pretty regular basis, and what we talked about this last week as well, that you want to alternate that with the protein and vegetables. So the oats with some berries and some walnuts and some flax would be a great serotonin boosting breakfast if you have a day that you're going to be doing, you know, whatever, something stressful that you know that you're going to need to stay calm. And if you do have days that you need more energy that has to go outwards, then the eggs and the protein and vegetables might be a better option. But use it in a way that makes sense for you and what you have planned for that day.
Makes sense.
So a whole foods diet is the way to go. And then the other thing that is essential is exercise. So, you know, when people ask me, like, because when people always relate exercise to weight loss. So if they're not looking to lose weight, or they're not in a good place, they just stop exercising. So they're like, well, I'm not focused right now, so I'm just not doing it. I'm like, that's so funny, because I exercise for mental health. Like it has absolutely nothing to do with my weight, because I'm not always caring about my weight. I'm not always caring about my immediate physical health, because I'm in pretty good health, right? I think I'm in excellent health actually. I exercise every day, because if I don't, I am going to fall prey to the information that's coming in around me. But if I exercise, I have this ability to just stay above all that, or away from all that, so that I'm not drowning in it, you know, or I'm not brought down by it. So exercise is so, so vital. One of the things I share with my clients is there's lots of people out there doing like free video stuff. Look at your local community, find your yoga teachers in your community, find your exercise, you know, whoever, calisthenic teachers, Pilates teachers, support your community right now. Most of them, if not all of them, are either doing free live streaming events that you can participate in, or they're doing it for fundraisers. And I'll say, like, if you love something and something brings you value in your life, support it. My yoga school closed, and when she went to that last class, and she said it's a good lesson, and if you value something, support it, because it goes away if you don't. So all these people that are struggling right now, I mean, Pilates teachers, yoga teachers, these are not non-essential jobs, but they make our lives better. So we're not going to be running to go back to yoga right now, but we want to support the person that gives us that online, because that person needs to have a livelihood. He or she is providing a service that's going to make your life better. So if you can, do something to help them, and it'll also help you. But find those things and then make a schedule for yourself. And before you get on a Zoom call, or before you whatever, do 15 minutes of yogic breathing, or do 15 minutes of downward dogs and sun salutations. Do something to kind of get the blood going, and also to help boost that serotonin in your brain in a nice, healthy way. So exercise is super, super important, and it should be done every single day.
And what, do you have a regimen that you follow every day? Do you have like a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or do you do the same thing every day? What's your own personal?
So prior to this, I went to yoga every single day. I actually went to class, but you know, to do that is like, in New York, is like a 3-hour project. It's an hour to get there on the subway. It's an hour and a half class, you know, whatever. It's an ordeal. But now what I've done is and I did this when I was in England, because in England, I can't go to yoga that easily. I kind of searched the internet for all these classes, like 15 minutes of arms, 15 minutes of legs, whatever. And I compiled them into a list. And I, 3 or 4 times a day, I do a 15 or 20 minute something. I do my arms twice a day. I do a cardio once a day, and I'll do like legs once a day. Sometimes I'll just do 3 things a day. But it's in 15, 20 minute intervals, but I do them every single day. And I write them down. These are the things I'm going to do, and these are the moments that I'm going to do them.
And you do them throughout the day or first thing in the morning?
I can't do it all at once because an hour is a lot to ask, yeah? But 15 minutes is easy to fit. So rather than going onto the news or onto Facebook or onto, unless of course you're listening to us, or going onto or something that's not of use, do 15 minutes of an exercise, get some weights. My weights are right here, my yoga mat's behind me, and just do 15 minutes of something. This is the time, like when this started, I just thought, okay, how am I going to spend this time? This is going to be a lot of time. What do I want? How do I want to walk out of this house or this apartment when this is over? It's like, well, I want to walk out feeling my best. So I'm going to make the most of this time. So like I made a decision very early on, and very quickly you can transform your body if you're doing these, especially with weights, if you're doing these workouts. So do like Tracy Anderson is one person out there doing that has lots of free stuff online. I don't know that lot. There's one that I've recently come across called The Class. It's a combination of calisthenics, yoga, breathing, all kinds of different modalities. It's amazing, also really powerful. But again, just check out your local community. I'm sure the yoga teachers or exercise teachers in Auburn that are doing live streaming events. Check them out and support them, because that's something that would be really helpful. And a lot of these people are not just doing live streaming, they have libraries that you can access. So you could do a 15-minute like video without having to do it at a specific time in the day.
So as you know, I don't know where he went, but I have a little dog friend who gratefully lives here with us, Sammy. Yeah. And we've always, the royal we've always walked him twice a day, but 10 or 15 minutes in the morning, 10 or 15 minutes in the afternoon. And one of the silver linings of this very horrific, I know we can't really say enough just what a horror show we are living through, but one of the silver linings is that this dog and I are getting a very long walk every day. We're doing at least an hour, if not 90 minutes. And a few weeks into it, it was raining. We've had some tough weather upstate. And we didn't. We went back to our old pattern of just letting him out for 5 or 10 minutes in the backyard, morning, afternoon. And that night I thought, oh, I feel kind of funky. What did I do differently? And I realized, oh, I didn't take my walk. I didn't do that hour into town and back. And I thought, for as long as this lasts, I don't care if it's snowing, and then it did. I don't care if it's raining, and it has. I'm going to bundle up, and I'm going to wear the appropriate clothing, and I'm going to do that walk into town every single day, no matter what, because that hour-long walk is, for me, setting a reset button. I feel like it's setting a reset button.
So it's interesting.
Walking?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I can't hear it. Walking in New York is like walking on an obstacle course. If somebody's coming, you got to go that way. It's really not worth it. I mean, I go out, but it's not worth it. I don't got much. But exercise, that walk, you have to move stress through your body. So a lot of people, when they have a stressful situation or they have something that they can't figure out, they just think about it. They ruminate. And there was a TED Talk, I think it was a TED Talk, about this woman who said, you have to literally get up and physically move that stress through your body. If it's just in your head, it's not going anywhere. You can't, and this, I'm sure many people have heard, you can't use the same thinking that got you into the problem to get you out of the problem. Like, thinking it through is you're just going to create more drama. Again, if you're thinking negatively, you're depleting serotonin and your ability to have equanimity, you're not going to find the answer. But if you get up and you move your body, you're literally taking that energy and moving it through your system and out. You're dissipating its concentration in the mind. Also, when you're moving your body, you're walking, you're engaging both sides of your brain. And your brain, the 2 sides of your brain do different things. One is more practical, one side is more creative. But when you're walking or when you're washing your hair or whatever, you're allowing them to communicate to each other so that solutions are more readily available. So I have often taken the problem on a walk and gone, oh, that's it.
Great.
That's it. Because you see the entry point, because my creative side is thinking along with my analytical side, and it's like, oh, that's the solution. Whereas if I just try to sit here and think it through, I would have never, ever come to it. So walking is super, is the best thing. In upstate New York, I don't think the parks are open, but you have that massive park up there where people go hiking. What's it called? Glen Falls, or
yeah.
What's the one that's up? Anyway. What? Feel more glad. That's it. Yeah, yeah.
It's one of the benefits to living, truly one of the benefits to living in a rural community, for sure.
Yeah, you're very lucky. I mean, you know, we're all very lucky that we have homes to be in and we have food on the table and all those things. But yeah, I mean, a lot of people have left and gone to their country homes just to be outside. I completely get it. You know, a lot of people in New York City anyway. So we have diet, we have exercise, we have. So also touching on last week's, probiotics are super important for brain chemistry because serotonin is a chemical. By itself, it does not do much. It has to attach to a receptor site in order to have an impact on your brain. These receptor sites are integral to the effectiveness of serotonin. 85% of these receptor sites are not in our brain. They're along the lining of the gastrointestinal tract. So if your gastrointestinal tract is inflamed or out of balance or depleted from beneficial bacteria, you can have all the serotonin in the world, but it's not going to necessarily make you feel that much better. That they have to have the integrity to be able to recognize that serotonin and make that connection. So taking probiotics and reducing junk food and all of that goes a long way towards helping that connection happen so that your brain chemistry can come alive. So you might know people like this. Like I definitely have met them over the course of my life. They're on antidepressants, but they're still depressed because they're not dealing with the underlying issue that there's a gut imbalance here. So you need to clear up the diet and you need to add the probiotics to make those serotonin receptor sites more effective. And then everything else works better after that.
Now, I know you don't endorse, you know, you're not here representing any company or any of that kind of stuff, but is there a probiotic that you recommend? Because, you know, I know sometimes I've gone to I've worked with a nutritionist, Lori Vashaw, in Oswego. And so she, you know, so I take the brand that she works with. But if you're going to Wegmans or to the grocery store and you're looking for a probiotic, can you just kind of give viewers a sense of how to choose the best one for them?
You want to look for a multi-strain probiotic. So in the lactobacillus family, so there's lots of different lactobacillus strains, not just one strain. So if you see in the label, it says lactobacillus, you know, one thing, just that's maybe not sufficient because it's only going to touch upon one aspect of the GI. Get a multi-strain formula. If you've never taken probiotics before, if you have a history of taking a lot of antibiotics, if you have a history of any sort of autoimmune disease or anything like that, either first talk to your doctor about it, but also if you want to take it and you want to proceed, start with a very low dose, like 5 billion units. When you first start taking probiotics, if you're not used to it and you have all these imbalances, as you take them, what they're doing is they're killing off bad bacteria. And bad bacteria, as it dies off, gives off a gas. And that gas can make you feel bloated, gassy. It could actually exacerbate symptoms before you get better. So if you just go out and go, oh, probiotics are great, let me just take a ton of it, you might actually feel awful after that. So you want to, again, discuss it with your healthcare provider, and then also start at a very low dose. If you're totally healthy, never take antibiotics, everything is good, then 5 billion units is a great place to start, and then you can titrate upwards. I really can't give more specifics than that because I don't know who I'm talking to and I don't want people to just run out and grab whatever I say. Really this should be a conversation. And the great thing about bringing this conversation to your doctor is that the more people discuss this stuff with their doctor, the more mainstream it becomes. And then it's not this marginal fringe element of this, you know, it becomes a priority for the doctors to understand it too, so that they can have an intelligent conversation with you or an educated conversation with you about that topic. So look into it if it interests you, and then talk to your doctor about it.
Well, and you also spoke last week about natural probiotics. And as a result, I bought for the first time ever fermented beets. Thank you, Wegmans organic section. I haven't had them yet, but cool. They're in the fridge. So you said for fermented foods. But if you don't want to supplement, we can get those through fermented foods as well, correct?
Correct. And that's actually in many ways the best way to go about it. I included a link on how to make fermented pickles. So you should have it on the APT site. But there's lots and lots of websites out there on how to make like homemade fermented sauerkraut and kimchi. So just check that out. If you like that food, make it. Now's the time to learn how to make all that stuff.
And kombucha, of course. Somebody asked me about kombucha after the show.
Yeah, kombucha is also good. It's also fermented. I drink kombucha. I don't drink tons and tons of it. I'd rather get my probiotic in a pill form. There is sugar in kombucha, so I don't want to just drink that all day long. But that is one way to get it as well. I don't know how much you're going to get from that. You're going to get more from sauerkraut and kimchi, but it's certainly something that you can have for sure. Yeah. So the fermented foods and all that is super important. And then the other thing, so if a single negative thought depletes serotonin, what do you think might happen if you have a positive thought? Yeah, you feel good. So which kind of brings me to this, uh, why I'm doing this. Like, I'm doing this because I believe, because I love you and I love Carrie and I believe in what you're doing. Yeah, I think, you have always been somebody that just like, you make things happen. I mean, when I saw that building back when you bought it, I was like, they're gonna do what here? And if you look at APT, anybody that's been there knows like what you've achieved there is unbelievable. So I'm doing this because I believe in your mission and your company, and I want you to do well. And because it makes, and in so doing, it makes me feel good. It makes me feel really good that I can provide this service to people that, or this information to people might not have access to it, and in some way help you. Right? But look around and see, like, if you're privileged enough to have a job, to have food on your table, to have your home, then you might want to consider how you can help your community, because that's a wonderful way to boost your serotonin levels. Stop thinking about yourself and start thinking immediately, how can I offer myself up in some way? So when this happened, again, I knew I wasn't going to England anytime soon. I was going to be stuck in this house. What can I do? And there's going to be this need. And I'm like, well, the one thing I have is information. And then when I talked to you, and then, so I started calling people, and I started calling people I don't normally speak to. So I called you one day and, oh, we're doing this project. We're doing all this work online. Great. Want to do this? Yeah, let's do that. And then in participating in something that is helpful to other people, I've been in a great mood. Like, I have actually not been sad 1 minute. Yeah, I'm annoyed. I'm aggravated. I'm over it, all those things, but like depressed or sad or anxious, not really. Like, I think the most anxious I've been is when after this last week, because I don't necessarily like public speaking, even though it's just me and myself. Yeah, so what can you do for others? So I looked at, obviously we're doing a fundraiser here with this event, and I was thinking, I looked at the amount of people that watched last week. Over the course of the week, it was 2,300 people. If 2,300 people had donated $5, maybe not to APT if that doesn't speak to them because they're not from Auburn, they don't care, but $5 to something, 2,300 people donating $5 is $11,500. Now that's a difference to somebody somewhere, right? So look around and see, like, in the midst of this, if you read a story about a family like that's been decimated by this, or lost a family member and can't afford their funeral, or all of a sudden you're politically motivated to donate to a particular politician, or maybe I'm going to really get involved in environmental issues now. Like, look around to things that matter to you and donate $5, because your $5 may not be a lot of money, but if 2,300 people donated $5, it's a lot of money. It's a significant.
Let me ask you this: when you do that, when we give and receive, by the way,
yeah,
what does that has an effect on the serotonin level? I would assume.
Of course, anybody who's given 1 penny to charity knows that it feels good.
But I mean, it feels good.
Yeah, it boosts serotonin. It literally boosts serotonin. Every time you do something positive that's reinforcing a belief system that you have that is benefiting somebody else, it boosts serotonin. So you can literally do things for others and make yourself happy in the meantime, even when you're sad, even when you're scared. I actually did a lecture one time for the New York City bar, like for the lawyers, the bar, whatever, the program, I don't know how to put that. And there was,
that's right.
Yeah, bar association. And there was a guy there, he was a recovering alcoholic, and he was apparently a very bad addict. And so somebody asked him, like, what do you do? Like, if you can't have a drink, what are you doing? You're stressed out. He goes, well, I find somebody that needs something and I do something for somebody else. And I was just like, and this was like 10 years ago that I saw this guy speak. And I was like, wow, that's amazing. He goes, instead of drinking, I find a cause or a person in need and I help them. And it immediately takes me out of my experience and I feel better. And there's serotonin in action, right there. So I want to just say 2 other things, and then I want to go to questions. And I know you wanted to say something, that the opposite of depression is vitality. It's not happiness. So again, when you're eating, so don't even look at it for like, I'm eating to be in a good mood. I'm eating to be as vital as possible so that I can be fully engaged in the person that I am. And in that engagement, I can then look around and say, how else can I be of service? So eat for your vitality and you will not be depressed, or you will have less feelings of depression for sure. And also that happiness is a verb. You can't sit here and wish yourself happiness. Like I used to be depressed. I have to say, when I was a college student, I was not a happy person. And I used to think, and in the beginning stages of my career, I used to think, God, I'd rather have a physical illness than this because it's in my head. I can't get away from it. So, but when I realized that I can't wish my way to happiness, I can't take pills. I never took pills, but I can't, you know, the only way to be happy is to look at your life and go, what do I want? And then go after it. Like life is a verb and happiness is a verb. Do the things that matter to you.
And what did you do, Barbara, back in the, I mean, not to switch the, but I mean, a few couple steps. I mean, you really altered your life professionally. I mean, you took big steps.
Which were frightening as anything. I mean, imagine going to 5 years of pharmacy school and then practicing pharmacy and going, if I do this for the next 50 years, I will kill myself. Like, I mean, because not, and it's not because pharmacy isn't a nice career. It's a very nice career. I did well as a pharmacist. I understood that in that way, in that pharmaceutical paradigm, I was helping people. But what I actually really saw was that people were relying on medication and not taking responsibility for their health. And because essentially when your doctor says, take this, he's saying, this is going to make you feel better. And in that moment, he's kind of absolving you of responsibility to feel any better than that. But medication has a limited impact in the face of a bad diet or poor lifestyle choices. And anybody that knows anybody that's on medication, you see they start with 1 and next thing you know, they're on 3 because they're not changing the whole situation that created that problem in the first place. So when I saw that, I just thought, this is not the way. I mean, I happened to work in a great pharmacy it was a holistic oriented pharmacy. So I filled prescriptions, but the front of the house was all vitamins and things. And I just saw that the people that were doing things naturally lived longer, survived better, like, you know, were thriving, looked great. And I just thought, wow, so I went to school but yeah, I mean, that was terrifying. But what I did was I had to listen to myself, because if I didn't listen to myself, I would have gone down bad roads to just cope. And life shouldn't be endured, it should be enjoyed, you know? But yeah, I mean, all that stuff is super scary, but sometimes you gotta do scary things to have the life that you want. So look at your life. If something's not working, and probably it's becoming crystal clear in this environment where you can't go out and you can't distract yourself, look at it, and then you might not be able to make that change today, but you might be able to take steps to feel better in your body and in your mind, so that you have the presence of mind to make a change that could lead to another change, that could lead to another change, like that.
I mean, I know for me, when I first started to follow Fat Flush program, you know, she recommended, I mean, I was doing, food-wise, I was doing everything wrong. And when I just changed that, when I started to follow that, eat this at 7, eat this at 10:30, eat this at noon, eat this at 3, eat this at 6, within a couple of days, within a day or really 48 hours, I was waking up, and instead of saying, okay, at 6 a.m., I can go back to sleep in how many hours, waking up to the alarm, I was waking up before my alarm, wide awake with energy. And I thought, wow, I haven't felt this in such a long time. And so then, as you said, that becomes a snowball effect.
Correct.
So I just want to ask a couple of questions that we've received that are relevant. One is, are you familiar with Donna Eden?
No.
No. Okay. So one of our viewers asked if you're familiar.
Is there any information about Donna Eden that she could share that I might?
With Donna Eden? Yeah, we'll look it up and perhaps attach it here afterwards. And then we had one question related to anxiety, and that is if you can speak to hair loss related to anxiety.
So hair loss is fundamentally an adrenal problem. So your adrenal glands, like I said before, they manage your hormone balance, which hair loss is connected to that, your weight, your metabolism, inflammatory markers, and all of that. So if you have hair loss that is, I mean, it depends on the kind of hair loss. There's all different kinds. There's like one that's an autoimmune that shows up like it's just patches, like circular patches that are shiny and soft. That's one kind. There's also polycystic ovary disease, and you get the hair loss. It's more like male pattern hair loss. So it depends on if there's another diagnosis with that, but generally speaking, it's an adrenal issue. So what you really want to look at is, again, anything that you can do to minimize stress, reduce your caffeine intake. Exercise is super important. And then nourishing foods for the adrenal glands would be like beans, like especially kidney beans, oats, whole grains, lots of fresh vegetables, and fruit and things like that. So like a whole foods diet, but exercise would be a vital thing because that gets the circulation going and that helps to maintain a certain equilibrium in the adrenal glands. So you'd want to include that.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I'm just going to look down here at my phone to see if we're getting any other questions from the audience that we need to answer. Nothing yet. I just want to mention one of my go-tos. As you know, I'm a long-time practitioner, user of Young Living essential oils, and this is called Stress Away. And normally you put a drop on your hand and you take 10 deep breaths. And one of the things that I'm really grateful for about the oils, particularly at this moment in time when we're all shuttered inside, is that I feel like I'm breathing more deeply with the oils on my hands than I do without the oils on my hands. And you spoke last week about increasing the billowiness of our lungs. So I feel like I'm taking the oil and I'm just, jumping. Stress away.
Yeah.
Stress away every day.
But there's something that happens in the brain that helps a cascade of chemical release with certain smells. Yeah, so that's great. Lavender is amazing right now. So I don't know what's in stress relief formula, but lavender would be a great essential oil to keep on hand. You're frozen, so I don't know if you're there. So I'm going to carry on with one thing that I think that is super important. And I don't know if everybody can hear me, but one of the things that I do with all of my clients who are anxious and depressed is that I have them at the end of the day write down the 3 best things that happened to them that day. So it's a way of expressing gratitude, and it's super important because it gets you in touch with the good things that are happening in your life. Most of us are very in touch with the negative things that are happening in our lives. We're very clear on the stressors, but we're not clear on the good stuff. And the good stuff and that gratitude that we feel from having that is important. So just write down, like if you consider your day, write down the 3 best things that happened to you in a day. And then you might want to write down what you did over the course of your life that brought you to that moment. What brought you to having those 3 things show up in your life? And I had a client one time who said to me, well, he was homebound, he was in bed a large portion of the day. And he's like, well, nothing really happens good in my day. And I was like, well, if all you did was like roll from one side of the bed to the other or get yourself to the toilet by yourself and write that down, that's good. That's enough. That would do it. But constantly get in touch with what's positive in your life so that you can minimize your focus on the negative. And then after you've done that, write down 3 things that you plan to make happen the following day, because that's a way of moving the needle forward. So the 3 best things is gratitude, and your 3 intentions helps you have purpose on the following day.
Okay, now this is Carrie. I know I don't look like Angela, but I think her connection dropped out for a second.
Okay.
So let me just continue because I know we had a question from Susan. She wanted to know what you think about intermittent eating. Not eating after 7 at night, and then not eating until the next day for 16 hours, and then eating only between 12 and 7 the next day. So a regimented eating program.
So yeah, I practice intermittent fasting. I think it's a really valuable tool to not only maintain a healthy weight, but also to create new set points in your body. So set points are like, let's say you're a person that weighs 150 pounds and you go on vacation and you gain 2 or 3 pounds on vacation, and then you easily get back to 150 when you get home. But conversely, when you try to lose weight, you can only get down to 147 before your body wants to go back up to 150. That's your set point. So intermittent fasting is a way to knock yourself to a lower set point. But more importantly than weight, it actually has been shown to have rejuvenating properties to the body. So it's a great tool for longevity. The more you do intermittent fasting, the more you release stem cells into your body, and stem cells can go around and heal aspects of your system that might be debilitated. So I'm a big proponent of it. I actually have my clients start off with like a 12-hour window and then move to 12 and a half and 13 hours. Not everybody needs or can do 16 hours. And I don't want people to think that it's either 16 hours or nothing. it's really just elongating the window in which you don't eat. So if you're right now only not eating for 8 hours, go to 9 hours. Like slowly work on that. And that's another great way to boost immune function. So in this environment, that would be another great tool to consider. So I'm an advocate of it.
Okay. Okay, I got it.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at my phone too. I think something went wonky for Angela's internet, so I'm not sure if we'll get her back. But I think that, and I'm trying to look at some questions, and I think that right now that's all the questions I have. What I can do while we're talking is let's see if I can do this or not. I can share your, um, I think, can we see that online now? Can you see
Yeah,
it?
I see it. Yep.
Okay, so I'm gonna scroll down because I can't see it when I do it. But I'm gonna scroll down. This is what's on the Auburn Public Theater website that people can download, and you put this up here last week, and I think that Angela's coming back. So hopefully. So anyway, so this is the poster that they can download from the website, and obviously we can't all read it at the moment. So just want to give them an idea of what that is, and I think we have Angela back. Hi, Ange.
Hi, Ange.
You know that Beatles song, When I Find Myself in Times of Trouble?
Yeah.
My little friend Sam is the perfect stress reliever. Did you already show the
Oh,
flyer?
the FCCA? No, no, no. Here's what I'll do. You can keep talking, and I will share it while you talk.
So this poor dog has been our constant companion for however many days we've been in quarantine. He's always been our constant companion. Hi, friend. So he became a part of our family. It'll be 3 years ago in May. And he's had more walks in the last 7 weeks than he's had in the last 3 years. And he's very democratic. There are 3 of us living here, and he spends time with all 3 of us. He goes from Jana to Heshi to myself. It's fascinating to watch, actually. I mean, I've never spent 7 weeks alone with my dog, alone in the house with my dog and my children. So it's been really amazing to watch his behavior in a whole new way. Having this time with him has been a whole new, that's what the
There's
kids
been a
do.
lot of videos going around about dogs and how they're like, oh my God, people go back to work. I can't take it. You guys want to see me for like my millionth walk of the day.
Yeah, the dog's like, I'm glad you're feeling better. Now I need to take a whole food diet and take some yoga classes because these humans are like they're all over the place here. Have you ever thought about or talked about the effect of animals, domesticated?
No, I haven't. I wasn't raised with animals. I never owned a pet. So like, I'm not in touch with that as being, I mean, my stepkids love dogs and I love their dogs, and my cousin Robert and his wife have a dog and I love Lucy too. But like for me, so it's never been a part of my life. And then for me to speak of it, it doesn't even like occur to me because it's not part of my reality, you know? I think I had a goldfish once and it died.
My parents never let us have pets because they didn't want us to deal with the grief.
Oh, interesting. My mother didn't want to ruin the furniture.
Well, I said to my dad, after my mom died, like, why didn't we ever have a pet? I mean, our house was so chaotic anyway. It's not like a pet would have, we wouldn't have even noticed. You wouldn't have even noticed the extra chaos. And that's what my dad told me. We saw other people's family pets die, and we just didn't want you children to have to deal with the grief of that. And so we just practiced that with our actual parents.
Yeah.
We're in our early 30s. We just skipped right to like the parental unit.
Oh, I know. I actually took a picture of when Jana was born. We were all in LA. It was nice to see your parents again.
Yes, thank you. Such a happy time. So we do have one last question. I just realized. Do you have an opinion about intermittent eating?
Yeah.
Not eating after 7 o'clock at night, and then not eating the next day for 16 hours, and then eating only between 12 and 7 the next day, etc.
Yeah, Carrie just asked me that while you were.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, so I addressed it.
Okay,
yeah, I'm a fan.
Perfect. Okay, so I'm going to close with this one last thing. So I've been, I want to slam myself because I don't want to deplete my serotonin, but serotonin I do have. But I've struggled with asking for help. And even when I don't ask and somebody offers, accepting help. And my dear friend Joy mentioned on Facebook, I'm not going to say her last name in case she doesn't want to do this for, the whole country, but she mentioned that she was making masks for people. And I, in that very self-reliant way, I thought, oh, I don't need that. I'll just, buy a mask, get a mask, order a mask. And she made this. So I said, I decided to do something different, right? Like 7 weeks of totally different lifestyle. And I thought, I'm gonna do something different. I'm gonna respond and say, yeah, actually, could I have help with that? And she sent this.
That's great.
And it's so soft. It smells amazing, by the way. I put a little thieves oil in it, Young Living thieves oil.
Oh, good. Great idea.
An extra filter. And man, it made me feel so great. Like this wonderful loop of like accepting friendship. So not just giving, because receiving is the other half of that circle, right? So
Absolutely.
I don't know if it actually boosted my serotonin, but it felt like it did.
Yeah,
But I mentioned this, like allowing ourselves to receive in this very strange time.
Well, if you can't give, if you can't receive, you're not going to be able to give. So yeah, you got to take it in as well. So
like your lovely offer to do these, I know that you are very handsomely paid and well-deserved nutritional consultant. And so when you offer to do this, truthfully, my first reaction was, oh, it's too generous. We couldn't. Really? And then I thought of all the viewers. No, truly. And then I thought of all the viewers and I thought, hey, she offered. And I'm doing this practice of, a wiser older woman friend of mine said to me, she gave me a homework assignment. She said, for 1 year, you have to say yes to every offer of help.
That's great.
I couldn't believe how many people had been trying to help me. Can I hold the door for you? Oh, I'm all set. And then I'd say, oh, okay, yeah, thanks. I mean, it was at one point I sort of felt like I was on candid camera. So many people were offering help. And then I realized, no, it was just my orientation to receiving the help. So Thank you to my dear friend Joy. Thank you to Carrie Idell, Paula Knev, Janie McGleer, behind the scenes at Auburn Public Theater. Thank you to you, Barbara. I feel better just having sat and visited with you for now.
Oh, good. It's so nice to see you. And it's my pleasure. So nice to be here. And remember, just help each other. We'll get through it if we just help each other.
That's right.
Thank you, Ange. So nice.
Thank you. We'll see you next Wednesday.
Yep, for sure. All right. Bye.
Thank you all for tuning in.